Welcome back to KM Builds, and in today's episode we're going to be tackling the cab of the K-Truck. Now you may be wondering, why is the K-Truck on its side? And if you are curious, go back, check out our previous episodes where we've covered rust proofing the bed of the truck and basically tackling the rear end. And today my job, bit of a rough one, is to tackle the sound deadening and the rest of the cab. So there's not much left in here. We have stripped everything out that we can, just what's left of the steering column for the wheels, and we do have a number of bits that we need to tackle. So the main bit is the sound deadening, you can see here, and also there is some fibre on the top of the roof which I'll show you later in the video. The main aim for me is just to get it as clean as possible. So there's a number of bits that need repairing where we need to add some primer and fix it up, and that's what we're going to tackle in the video today. So the main bit that we're going to have to work on with the K-Truck is the existing sound deadening. Now this stuff isn't too bad, to be honest, but it does need replacing, so we're going to take it out. Originally we had a method of using dry ice, which is quite common. The unfortunate thing with that is we've only got a small bit and it is quite expensive. If we had a full sort of car to do, then it's probably value add in terms of the cost. And I also wanted to see if it works well, to be honest. But this is a budget build and therefore we're giving time over cost. So I have got the job of basically getting this as hot as I can and peeling it away. So I'm going to get the blowtorch on it. I'm going to see how that works out, and hopefully as we progress through it should peel away. Never done sort of sound deadening removal before, but I'm hoping, based on what I've seen online, it should be relatively easy. It's just a time consuming task. So let's time lapse that and jump straight into it. So I'm about a quarter of the way through at the moment, getting the sound deadening off the floor. I did originally start with the blowtorch, but what I found was it would leave quite a lot of residue, as you can see by here, which would then mean going back over the top. Whereas I found with a sort of flat head sort of scraper and a hammer, I was able just to chip away. It's not the cleanest method, but it's more just to ensure that I don't have to go back over and get all the sticky sort of residue at the bottom off. But happy with the progress so far. Just going to carry on now sort of with a hammer and work my way through. As I'm working here towards sort of the end or the remaining bits of the sound deadening, it hasn't been too difficult of a task. It has just been time consuming. I think if you used a dry ice or a method like that, it would require a lot less time, but obviously it would cost you in terms of having to buy that. So it wasn't too bad. It just left a lot of the black sort of dots you can see on here. So my plan of attack for this was to get the blowtorch and just heat these up as much as possible. What this sort of allowed it to do then was soften up, and I could go over it with a wire wheel, which just enabled me really to get it all off. So then sprayed it with the tar and glue, and it was just a case of wiping that off. So really pleased with how it came out. Just sort of a long process to get there. We've managed to get off all the sound deadening now, so it was quite a lengthy process. I think the unit being quite cold and Wales in general being freezing meant that it was a bit easier because it came off in more chunks, you would have seen in the video. Whereas I think if you were in a hotter climate, it would be more tacky, so therefore it may not have come off as easy. I know there's a few methods online like using dry ice, which sort of toy in with the idea of doing that, but the cost, it was like 50 quid for a bag. So for us, because we only had this small section, it didn't seem like value add. If we had the whole sort of bed to do, or the whole truck, say, was full of sound deadening, then maybe would have made more sense, but it was just a case of tackling it with time. And you saw me just with a scraper and a hammer get off what I could, then chuck some tar and glue remover on it and went over with a wire wheel, and that cleaned it up quite nicely. So our aim long term will be to obviously replace this sound deadening with a bit more modern and newer stuff really. It has left quite a lot of residue and stuff in the truck, so I will need to clean that up as well. But what we will do is jump onto the roof of the truck now and get off all, I don't know, if it's not sound deadening, it's like a foam material. It's quite sticky. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a nightmare, so we'll jump into that and see how that goes. So, as I mentioned in the introduction, the roof of the K-Track sort of has this insulation type foam on it. I have, as you can sort of see on the top, already had a go with the toffee wheel just to see how it comes out. It does sort of make it into this gooey sort of material, but it does get rid of it. It is actually like foam, as you can sort of see me pressing in. So I may try the blowtorch on it just to see how that reacts. But if not, it'll just be a case of ploughing through it with the toffee wheel itself. Longer term, we will do something with it. I've got most of the foam off the top of the truck now, so it has been a bit of a nightmare. I did use the blowtorch originally, but it just didn't really do anything apart from burn the top. So it was a case of just attacking it with a toffee wheel and just slowly working my way through it. I have also used the wire wheel on it, which is where you can see some of the paints come off, because it just took forever to try and get through it. And our aim will be to either paint this, you know, apply a border material over the top, but you won't actually see this long term. I've brought the truck back inside after pressure washing it, so there was a lot of dirt, dust, grime, etc. from where we've removed the sound deadening and the foam, and also the unit's quite dusty in general, so it just gave me a fresh base to work on. And all I'm doing now is taking the grinder and removing a lot of the material that we don't need. So there's a few tabs, a few different bits on the inside of the truck that aren't going to be useful for us moving forward, alongside sort of quite a bit of surface rust. Nothing too bad apart from around the top mounts, but the rest of the track I've just wire wheeled down to bare metal, and now I'm just applying a primer over the top. So this isn't the final sort of product. The long-term aim will be to do something with the cab. Let us know in the comments if you have any suggestions. Do we go a mad color on the inside of the cab to make it stand out? Do we do something a bit different? You know, our aim here is for the truck to be quite unique. So with the bike engine and with the other pieces we're doing, you know, the finished product should be quite good. So we want to make sure the cab also stands out. So all I'm doing is that's a weld through primer, and it just allows the bare metal rust just to not get any worse. So that finishes everything for today's video. We've got rid of the sound deadening, we've tidied up the cab in terms of the rust, and also removed the foam off the roof. Really happy with how it's turned out. We have got some exciting things on the channel now, so we are going to be starting to make good progress on the engine and a few other bits that we've got in store. So if you have enjoyed the video today, then please do subscribe, and we will catch you in the next one.